Coming up on Unwritten.
How can I meet my needs and you meet your needs, Thomas, at the same time? Like, what are you needing? What am I needing? Let's have a conversation about that.
Can you elaborate about your
And
childhood?
then I started remembering abuse as a child and
What inspired you to really just start writing
pain.
pain?
Yeah, deep pain. I've cracked the code. Like, I know exactly where to look and how to get there and how to get there fast. This is something that I've done every day for over 20 years.
Instead of trying to let go of trying.
Boom.
Who are you at your core, and what are you most passionate about right now?
Dang, go right in there.
Dig in there.
Good question. Who am I at my core? At my core, I am a person who is constantly striving for greatness and then using the knowledge that I find to help other people grow. I think that's who I am at my core. Ultimately, I've always been that kind of person, somebody who's not afraid to do the inner work, even though it's hard, even though it's scary. And the results of that have been incredible because all the outside stuff in my life is built on a foundation of internal stability.
Yeah.
And which is a miracle in itself, because if you'll probably hear some of my story in this interview, and it was not always horrible, but there were parts of it that were man, I'm lucky to be here. Let's just put it that way. And so to have internal stability based on what my early life experience was is miraculous in itself. And that's part of my striving for greatness, an unwillingness to give up on myself, and then a recognition that I have to give it away to keep it, in a sense. Like, I am oriented towards service. I'm oriented towards helping others. That's what I enjoy doing. That's how I prosper. And so I think that's fundamental to everything that I do. It's interesting, when people are learning to trust a person like me, someone who's genuinely looking out for you. It's easy to be skeptical.
The guarded.
Yeah. We've all had injuries and pains, and people that we couldn't trust or that hurt us, and and so
Vulnerable.
yeah, it's easy to be skeptical that someone is gonna really treat us with gently and kindly, and really has our best interest at heart.
Oh yeah, it's so hard, especially for people who've been, betrayed or heartbroken or taken advantage of in the past. It's like you used to uh put your heart on your sleeve, or what's that saying? You wear your heart on your sleeve, and then somebody took advantage of that, and they cut that heart out of your sleeve, and now you have to show up with this past where somebody betrayed you, and you have to relearn. You have to readapt to uh, whoever it is you want to put your trust in, and it may sound naive to for me, but I had to do something similar as well. And I always just I go into anybody I meet in life. I always go in with the giving them the benefit of the doubt of trust, where it's like I will trust you until you give me a reason not to trust you, because it wouldn't be wise of me to, because of my past, not trust you. So I go into it personally giving people the benefit of the doubt of trust.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I in some ways wish I was more like that. I'm I'm the skeptic.
Yeah,
Having
yeah.
experienced the level of abuse that I experienced in childhood and that sort of
Mm,
thing, I'm the skeptic. I'm like, yeah, I will trust you. I am willing to trust you. Show me that I can. And I think the
mm,
more mature I've become and the more healed I've become,
mm,
the more I recognize that yes, people's words are very important. What they say expresses their intentions, and people's actions are far more
mm,
important. That's when they really tell you who they
mhm,
are and where they're coming from, and we all operate out of what we need. We all
mhm,
have needs, whether we're aware of them or not, and that's what dictates our thinking, and that's what dictates our emotions out of that, and that's what dictates our actions out of that. And so that's when you ask what I'm passionate about, it's helping people clarify what they're feeling, what they're needing, and how to go about getting that in a healthy way that is cooperative with the people that they love and care about.
mm,
Right? Because there's a lot of ways we can go about meeting our needs in unhealthy ways. Addiction is a great example of that, right? You know, we might get our need, it might give us a sense of safety, some kind of, shouting at your kid or being
yeah.
upset with your parent or whatever it could meet your need for safety because you think you're protecting yourself,
Yeah, the best word that comes to me right now is, a sort of reprieve, like a reprieve, like a temporary release of these emotions that may be a reflection of this guarded safetiness that you have to protect.
Can you elaborate on that?
Like, so, like, the example you gave of this boiled up, frustrating emotions of yelling at your child, like, where does that come from? Is it literally just because you're angry that they didn't listen to you, or is it deeper than that? Is it because you want a sense of control, or is it deeper than that? Uh do you feel safe when you express your emotions in that way?
That's right. That's right. And it's learning to feel safe internally when we are vulnerable, because that's
Mm,
actually the strongest place. That's the
mhm,
superpower. That's right. Those of us who recognize that I am safe to be vulnerable with you, to tell you how I'm feeling and what I'm needing, and to ask for help in getting that. And that's a safe exercise
mhm.
to go through. That takes some practice,
Safe but uncomfortable.
right? It is
Yeah.
uncomfortable at first. It is uncomfortable at first,
Mm.
and we have to. There are strategies that I teach in my Safe in Your Own Skin book. There it is, the copy. So proud of this thing, and there are strategies to use in order to first create that internal sense of safety to where you're
Mhm.
brave enough to actually open up.
Yeah.
Right? To clear out enough of the old pain of having been hurt when you opened up with the wrong people at the wrong time, and to clear out enough of that pain so that you're available to yourself to actually be vulnerable, to actually know what you feel, to know what you need, and then to ask for help and find cooperative solutions about it. Well, how can I meet my needs and you meet your needs, Thomas, at the same time? Like, what are you needing? What am
Mm.
I needing? Let's have a conversation about that in a vulnerable way that that helps each other out, right? Then um, all boats are lifted with a rising tide.
I love that saying, yeah, "The rising tide lifts all boats." Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I get reminded of that whenever, uh, I experience any type of online judgment or criticism that may be taken as negative or a judgment on somebody's character or beliefs.
Mm,
Um, because I consider myself very spiritual, but not tied to a label of a religion. So I post a lot of stuff on like Twitter and threads, and it gets a lot of let's just say naysayers. Um, I always got to remind myself, like, when somebody is putting out hate or trolling, or I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and whether it's right or wrong, that's not, you could go into a rabbit hole and try to fact check and figure out all the whatever, but it's usually a reflection of their ego wanting to be right, because the ego always wants to be right. It's like, no, like, this is it, this is it.
mm,
And it's like, just let it go, be the rising tide that's above the ego, that's not always wanting to be right, and just let people express what they want without being attached to their words. Because I mean, it's so simple, because we're taught it when we were freaking kids, like, stick and stones may break your bones, but words may never hurt me. But words do hurt people
total bullshit.
so.
Total. Whoever made that up was just like out of their minds.
Right, and
Yeah,
it's like,
that's not
words do hurt people though.
we all recited it like it was true, but it was never true. You never felt that way.
Yeah.
It hurts. It hurts. And, well, the there's so much to unpack from what you're talking about right now. Like, where do I start? Right? The haters online, the people who are expressing their opinions, but they're expressing it in
Mm,
a way that is, let's call a spade, violent, right?
mhm.
They're and a lot of people don't even realize they're doing that. They just think they're expressing themselves, and they are doing it at the expense of someone else. And you have to and then you have to ask, okay, well, what are they getting from that, right?
A
What do they
sense of superiority,
and what does that give them? Like, does that help them feel safe?
feel good about
Maybe,
themselves,
because
yeah,
you sometimes,
yeah.
because if you're vampiring in the world, you will feel
Mm,
safer when you're taking energy from other people,
mhm,
right? Does it make you feel significant? Does it meet your need for
mm.
significance to be important? Yeah, by all means. If you're smarter than somebody and you can put that snarky quip in there, then you're significant. I'm definitely important at this point, right? There's
Yeah,
two needs that it meets that are primary fundamental needs, right? The need to
yeah,
to experience being significant, and the need for safety. And then, there's the need for variety too, right? That's fundamental to have some
mhm.
excitement. So if they put a zinger in there, that gives them a little bit of excitement, right?
Yeah,
Really thinking through
emotions,
what they're saying. They're
emotions,
just
yeah.
saying it off the cuff. Oh, that's this, that, and the other, making judgments, right? That meets those needs, but it doesn't really, though it's not sustainable, right? That's not a
Yeah,
sustainable way to meet our needs, because what it does is it separates us from other people. It separates us. The
mm,
judgment, the criticism. There's a way to criticize that is helpful,
yeah,
useful, and expresses a point of view, and also maybe persuades someone to come to a different point of view. Most of the time, people are doing that in a way that it's not creating that. It's creating separation,
yeah,
right? And that's what I
yeah,
call violent. Like, violence isn't just,
mhm.
punching your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your mom or
No, yeah, words can literally
yeah.
make people question themselves.
Yeah, and there's subtle forms of essentially power and control, right?
Mhm.
In order to feel safe, we have this mindset. If so many people don't realize what the victim consciousness is doing in their head, most of us walk around feeling like a victim to something and not even realizing that that's what we're thinking in our brain. It's like it's running in the background like an operating system. Like we are
Mm,
somehow a victim. And that's a deeper conversation because that's usually attached to real times when we
trauma
were
or
victimized, right?
mhm,
There were real experiences that are attached to that. So we kind of relive these patterns. If we don't break those patterns and we don't neutralize that original trauma, we'll continue to
mm.
relive these patterns. And so we walk around at this victim consciousness in our mindset, in our operating system without knowing it. So somebody
It's like everybody's out to get me.
right, somebody does
Yeah.
that's a personal affront against me, right? So in order to feel safe, when I'm on the drama triangle, when I'm in that victim thinking, I'm on the drama triangle. I'm either playing the role of the victim, the persecutor, or the rescuer, right? The doormat, the codependent. So I've
Mm,
got a couple of choices. I've got a couple of choices. If I want to control you, because I believe unconsciously that I will feel safe if you change, right? That is the essential root of most relationship problems.
mm.
Is if I believe I will feel safe or significant or I will get my needs met if you change.
So it's always dependent upon an external.
Always dependent upon an external. And that is not a solution for happiness. That's a solution
Yeah, and then
for
you're always gonna be disconnected, right?
sorrow and loneliness and disconnection.
Uh,
Exactly. Exactly. So the key is to be able to flip that script and direct, because if I'm dependent upon you, Thomas, changing so I feel safe, I'm gonna either try to passive aggressively coerce you, like by kind of subtly
manipulation.
shaming you or manipulating you into behaving a certain way that I think is acceptable,
Mhm.
or I'm gonna play that's the rescuer role, right? Or I'm gonna play the persecutor role and I'm gonna try to intimidate you to change in some
Mm,
way, shape, or form. And so, or I can flip the script and recognize that I'm not dependent upon you or what you do or what you say or what you think to feel safe, to experience being significant in this example. And now I have choice. I can choose to hang out with you or not. I can choose to put up with you or not. Like I can choose to accept you or not. Like that all
yeah.
depends on what else I need and what you need. And can we cooperate, or are you a narcissist who's stuck in your thing and is always
They
going to
feed off of that, yeah.
trying to feed off me? Then the best thing to do is to disengage. And
I do think people forget that they have free will of
Mhm.
choice sometimes.
Yeah, it's that
Like, they feel like they're trapped, like there's no way to choose.
I felt like that. I felt like that. Yeah, yeah. I think we all fall into that trap.
If you're comfortable, James, what can you, elaborate about your childhood and what happened to? Because I feel like that's a key point in your life
Hmm.
that even triggered you to get to this point where you're like, "Something happened to me, and I wanna help." I got to a point in my life where I've grown enough to reflect on it and now help other people who have maybe gone through similar events.
Hmm. Yeah, maybe I work backwards. When I was 24, I hit a rock bottom. Just I was in such emotional pain and felt so lonely and disconnected. Um, I had been a rock star already in my late teens and early 20s. I'd moved to New York, and I was using drugs and alcohol to anesthetize a bunch of pain that I couldn't even acknowledge was there.
Mm,
And so I just found myself in this agony. And after a couple of suicide attempts that I didn't even really realize at the
mm,
time were suicide attempts, I went to an AA meeting, and I actually went because my ex-girlfriend, who had broken up with me because I got drunk on a film set when we were acting in this film, and I made a real mess of it. And yeah, that was a horrible story. But she had, like, that's it. And I went
Mhm.
back to talk to her a couple of weeks later, and she said she was only hanging out with people who go to AA. I thought that meant we could get back
Uh,
together if I went to this
if you
AA
go.
meeting. So I went to this AA
Yeah.
meeting, hated everybody, thought everybody was dumb. They all dressed stupid. Just I was in that victim
Like, "What am I
mindset. I got
doing
all
here?"
those judgments that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
And this guy told his story, and I was like, holy cow, I do that. I do that. I do that. I think like that. Oh my God, I
Mm.
think this is my problem. And so I got sober. I stuck with it, man. I took all the suggestions. I just dove in, multiple meetings a day, found people work the steps, found people who were kind of hardcore, just doing it. And I built, there were 5 basic things that I built that I did. I'll share those with you later. Every day to build consistency. And I started getting recovery in there. And then I discovered, oh, there's these money 12-step programs too. My money's all screwed up too. I'm like in my 20s. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't pay my
Yeah.
rent. And so I started working those steps in those programs, started getting some health there. Then as I started healing, I started kind of
Mhm.
unpacking all this stuff that I wasn't remembering or allowing myself to
Like,
remember.
blocking,
Yeah, I
yeah.
blocked it out to survive, as we do, right? We compartmentalize so that
Yeah.
we can live and
Mhm.
survive. It's a survival mechanism. And so, yeah, then I started remembering sexual abuse as a child and things like that. So I started, you know, I was in therapy throughout this whole thing. So I was getting myself a lot of support, and I didn't have money. Like, I was broke, and I was like paying for
You were
therapy.
trying,
Like,
man,
I was
yeah.
making that my priority. Like,
Mhm.
sometimes I had to eat less so I
Like
could
an
go,
investment,
yeah,
yeah.
like, and I was scared that I was not gonna pay the bills or do the things, but I just kept getting good suggestions from people in recovery, and I kept trusting. And and that was the best. I recognized that's the best investment I can make in myself,
Mhm.
is to get this help and get this sorted. Of course, I thought I was going to therapy to work on my career and, all this stuff. There was no career for me. It was just like I kept working on personal pain stuff, and
Yeah.
old stuff. And I was like, when is this going to be done so I can get on with my career? And
What are your thoughts on therapy? Because I know a lot of people are, like, opposed to it, and especially, like, I think, like, the older boomers and, maybe the generation before me. I'm a millennial. A lot of people are opposed to it because they think, like, you must be crazy or something's wrong with you. Like, why are you gonna go to therapy?
yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, what am I going to have to admit? Man, I, um, I mean, look, I've written an entire book on how to look in. Like, I
Mhm.
I believe in the process of looking in. So whether you're and it depends upon who you're going to,
Right, yeah.
right? Like, my first therapist, get this. My first therapist, African American man in New York. I was so messed up. I didn't even realize this was weird. Like, we were doing therapy in his apartment. He was turning his bed into like a couch for people to do
Like a
therapy on.
futon.
He tried to persuade me that I was gay and that I needed to stop
Whoa.
therapy so I could have a relationship with him. That was my
That
first
sounds like
therapist,
some,
right? That's who I
Jeffrey
attracted.
Dahmer story waiting to happen.
Crazy, right? Crazy. Luckily, I was in an acting class and I said something
Some
about it to people
hypnosis.
in acting class.
Have you
And they
heard
were
of
like,
that?
that's crazy, man. So I got out of that guy and got to a really
Yeah,
qualified therapist who was way more expensive than I could really afford. And he
that's
gave me a break
crazy.
on his rate, because of the situation. But I believe strongly in therapy. And I've had, aside from that dude, I've had really good fortune with people who are good at what they do. And if they weren't, I
Yeah.
stopped seeing them and I found somebody else quickly. I've
Mhm.
had plenty of therapists who couldn't handle me or knew what to do with me.
Really?
Yeah, 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 sure. Especially like couples counseling. Oh, my ex-wife and I, there was so much drama when we were, just trying to get it all together. But we
I
found good
always,
people.
like
Found good
I
people.
I always think, like, if I ever get into, like, a long-term relationship again, I would and I'm serious about her, I would wanna go to that before, uh, like, before things get bad, you know?
I've I s- I strongly, strongly urge anyone who is going to be in any kind of relationship or have any kind of success in a career to have guidance, whether
Mm,
that's through therapy or coaching. A lot of people come,
mentors.
to me in my programs because we're clearing out stuff faster than what you do in
Mm,
therapy a lot.
mhm,
Because I've cracked the code. Like I know exactly where to look and how to get there and how to get there fast and to empower you to be able to do it for yourself instead of being dependent
mm.
upon someone
Yeah,
else.
that's the one.
You have to go, we need this
Yeah,
person to sort it out. But I do think
that's
that,
my one pushback against therapy is exactly what you just said, is, like,
yeah,
you're you get to this point where some people just go to therapy and they just like, complain and vent, and I feel like that's not, productive,
it's not.
you know?
It's not. It might be part of the process, but that's one of the things. Like in my coaching programs, I don't um, I don't really participate in a whole lot of venting. Like usually, a person is venting and repeatedly venting because they're
Mhm.
triggered. And
Right.
when someone is triggered, they're activated into old pain, old trauma, old limiting beliefs, and they're on the drama triangle. And I wish I had a diagram of the drama triangle, but it's an inverted triangle. And down at the bottom is the victim role and persecutor and rescuer. And once you trigger, you're on that trauma triangle and you're doing musical chairs. You could be rotating between those
Mm,
roles until you get off. And the only way to get off is to actually neutralize the trauma that that is the anchor beneath that trigger,
true.
right? This thing happened up here, you had an experience, you had a thought, it reminded you of this thing that's deep in your unconscious, and bam, that thing is ruling you. And it will continue to rule you, and you will continue to act out patterns that are similar to that, maybe not exactly, but over and over and over again until you address it. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm teaching people in the Safe in Your Own Skin book is how to address it and how to address it fast, right? To where you're eventually empowered to address it on a daily basis on your own whenever you need it. Yeah, it's powerful, powerful stuff. You crack that and you crack the code. If you know how to process that, if you know how to deal with your old pain and your old patterns, and you can identify your old patterns,
Mm,
um, things that things that used to plague you for weeks, or you'd be upset or depressed, or you know,
overthinking it,
right?
yeah.
That in talk therapy might take you a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to sort out. Uh, this trains you how to do it. I'm not joking. I do it in like 5 minutes. At first, it'll take you like 20, 30, but that's a heck of a lot faster than, you turn a week or a month into
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Yeah. And you might spend a day not wanting to admit that you're triggered and being in pain and being in pain.
Mm,
But eventually, the more you do this work, the less you're willing to tolerate that. I don't want to waste a day. I don't want to waste 20 minutes, dealing with this
mm,
drama. Like I realize now I'm triggered. I'm on the drama triangle. I'm just going to neutralize it right now and move on. And the amazing thing is that what people learn is
mhm,
that once you've triggered on the drama triangle, everything you do is violent. You try
hmm.
to have the conversation that you want to have, but you're triggered. It's not going to be as successful as it could be. you're going to say something wrong or
Mm.
do something or because you're in this victim mindset. It's you can't operate. You're going to try to do the business deal. You're not going to get the deal you want. You're going to screw
Yeah,
it
there's,
up.
like, some underlying,
You're going to attract
feeling there.
you're going to
Yeah.
attract this. You're going to attract the pain. You're going to attract pain when you're on the drama triangle, when you're triggered. And so the first thing to do is get yourself de-escalate and then find the handle to the trigger, process the trigger, neutralize the trauma. Now, suddenly you've got your creativity back. It's not personal.
Mm.
Now you can go, you can have that conversation like a grown up. You can do that business deal. You can talk to the person in your family and that's when you can feel safe and be vulnerable, right? Hey, this is what I'm feeling
Yeah.
about what's happening. This is what I need. How can I help you get your needs met too, so we can
Mhm.
cooperate, right?
What inspired you to, like, really just start writing the book?
Pain,
Pain.
pain. Yeah, deep pain, deep pain. I mean, I had to. So back to the story, right? I told you
Yeah,
before I
yeah.
got sober, and then later I started working. And then I started realizing sexual abuse. Well, then about 10 years in, I was just like, why is there so much drama in my life?
Mhm.
Like my wife and I would trigger and we try to have these conversations or like she'd be triggered and she'd be poking at me, poking at me, poking at me. And then
Poking the bear.
now we're both triggered, right? Because I didn't have the discipline to just go, oh, she's triggered. I can see that. Let me just remove myself and get out of the way.
With
It
awareness,
calms
yeah.
down. I trigger and then you're trying to engage and there's just nobody wins ever in that situation, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was, talking about earlier, where when we lead with our egos,
Mhm.
wanting part of our ego is always wanting to be right,
That's
and when you lead with that and 2 people lead with that, what's the outcome?
right.
There is none.
Right. And when someone is in a triggered state and on the drama triangle, they can't
Mhm,
help but lead with their ego because that's the
mhm,
thing that protects the pain,
mm,
right? So that was the survival technique. You had to use your ego to survive the original pains and the original
mhm,
traumas. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if stuff's happening in your younger years and as a child. For
and you're just
example,
confused,
formative years, you've
yeah,
got to use that ego to survive. But then there comes a point where that ego is now destroying your dreams. Right? It kept you
mm,
alive, but now it's got to go. It's like a booster. Remember when rockets used to need a booster to get up into outer space? Maybe they still do. I don't know.
they don't need that anymore.
I don't know what SpaceX is doing these days, but I've seen stuff go into space without and then come back down. So I don't know. Technology is
Yeah,
changing. But remember the old rockets? They had to have a booster rocket that got you up into
to
outer
reach
space.
orbit,
And then
yeah.
once you're in outer space, you had to release that rocket because now it's holding you back from getting further out. Now
Oh,
it's
yeah,
right. And it's the same thing with our ego behavior. It kept us alive. We survived, and now it's got to be ejected if you want to get to your dreams. If you want the life you want, which is peace, prosperity, tranquility, happiness,
serenity,
connection, like that juicy connection, that great connection that you're like, oh, so good, right?
warm and tingly
Warm and
inside.
tingly, the money, the abundance, but doing it in a healthy way and feeling good about what you're doing in the world. All of that, that's what we want.
Yeah,
And you got to let go of the ego booster rocket to get there.
mm,
And that's what I found. That's what I had to discover myself.
mhm.
And then I had to break it down because I had all these great mentors who were just like, hey, let it go. Just let it go. Just drop the rock. Just
But how do you let go,
how
right?
do you let it go? That was
How
always
do
my
you let?
question. I'm like, I'm
'Cause it's so
trying.
easy. Yeah, that's something I've noticed, when I've been trying to help people, um, even, like, the other day at the store, I was having a conversation with uh it was like a weed store, and, she was she was like, "I'm just stressed out," and I was like, um you can't, like, hold on to that stress, like, you just gotta relax, take a breath, and she was like, "You're making it worse," and I was like, "Yeah, that's reverse psychology for you," like, that's the perfect example of reverse psychology where it's like, you're telling somebody who's stressed out to take a breath, but the act of you actually telling them is making it worse. So it's like, "You know what? Whatever, just feel it, just feel stressed. I can't do anything here," you know?
Did that help her?
Yeah, she actually calmed down. I was like, "You know what? I'm just not gonna say anything." Like,
That's beautiful, right? You acknowledge where she's at, and you mirror that back to her without trying to solve it,
mm,
right? Because solving it is what we would call a rescue, right? You want
mm,
her to feel better. Why? Because somehow you'll feel better. Somehow you'll feel better about yourself. Now I'm a good guy. I helped her out, right? I'm
mm,
important. I'm significant. I feel, but really just mirroring it back to her, letting her have her experience is the
yeah,
most compassionate thing that you can do.
yeah,
That's the,
and
that's
her
the
guard was
best.
down after that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that
Yeah,
was cool. You were able to pivot right there. And she was able to express that too.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So those, as I started to heal, I started to
mhm,
discover what kind of a childhood I had. And it was basically violent. It wasn't always physical. It was some physical. There was sexual abuse. Um, it was mostly shouting and raging in the house,
emotional,
emotional,
yeah,
and there was I can't recall ever getting an apology or an amend for any of
mm,
my parents' behavior. It just kind of suddenly felt safer again, a little bit safer, so you'd kind of start to trust again. But you see, the wild thing about this, and the reason so many people start unpacking this in their 20s and 30s, is because we grow up in an environment that's totally normal to us. We don't know any different. So
yeah,
we
that's all we
so
know.
it's normal. So this
Mm,
systemic abuse, the systems of abuse, right? So for example, you grow up in a family system that uses power and control to get the adult's needs. That is systemic. You experience that on a daily basis,
generational,
right? And it could be
mhm,
generational, yeah. Or I also call it chronic abuse or chronic violence, right?
mm,
Where it's happening over and over, so it's normalized, so you don't even
I'm
recognize it
numb,
as wrong, right? And so
mhm,
then we end up later in our 20s and 30s sort of acting out these same behaviors
subconsciously,
subconsciously until we
yeah,
bang in, until it's like, oh wait, that's not helping this relationship. Matter of fact, I'm upsetting this person. And so the trap is, what? This is what? This is what I do,
this is who I
right?
am.
That's the ego, right? You're protecting the pain,
Man, I don't like, I mean, even I think I used to say that, and I think it's a trap because whenever somebody says, "This is who I am," it's suggesting that you can't change,
right?
but you can always
Right.
change.
They're confusing who they are with what their behavior is
Mhm.
and what they've been patterned or trained or
Conditioned,
blueprinted
yeah.
to think, right? And that's all malleable. I mean, as brain science
Mhm,
evolves, we know the elasticity of the brain, as long as you practice stretching and changing, it can really change. And that's what this work does in Safe in Your Own Skin, especially when you get to the trigger processing modalities, right? The trigger
mhm,
processing modalities are evolving now as brain science evolves. So like EMDR
mhm.
therapy, for example,
Yeah,
amazing.
or, like, tapping or
Heart
something,
math,
like,
tapping, TAT method. There's another one
or
called,
even just, like, doing like this.
that's right. That's a de-escalation technique, right? Havening, where you're just kind of giving yourself hugs.
Giving yourself a hug, yeah.
These are de-escalation techniques. So there's a distinction between de-escalation techniques, which are things that will help you calm down, calm your nervous system down
Mhm,
enough to where you can find the handle, the thought,
mm,
the feeling, or the or the vision in your mind about what's happening, right? So that's the handle. So this thing's happening, it's upsetting. I'm
Mhm.
de-escalating. Now I realize what's so upsetting about that? They don't respect me, right? Okay, so
Mhm.
there's the handle. They don't respect me. So now when you
Mm.
go through the trigger processing modality, it will show you all the patterns and times when you experienced not being respected. And those will take you back to
Mm.
root experiences that you don't have to relive in order to heal. That's always the fear, right? I don't want to go back there. The pain's too great. Instead, it just breaks it open. You might get a moment
Well,
of grief.
especially for, PTSD,
Yeah.
like, people with hardcore PTSD, it's you get flashbacks, you
Mm-hmm.
get, um you really don't wanna go back into those, memories because it's triggering and it's just and it's scary
Yeah, that's right.
and you get into this trance.
That's right.
People can get into trances when they get triggered by something that brings up, PTSD from their past.
That's right. That's right. And something I have experience with post-traumatic stress disorder, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, um, all of that changes, like flips around like that. Now, that's not to say that you're going to like process one trigger, neutralize one trauma, and you're
Mhm,
better. Most of the time, these systemic traumas, these chronic traumas, are like I give the example in Safe in Your Own Skin of digging up a yucca tree. We live in Texas. We have these yucca trees, right? They're tall. They're about 8 feet tall. They have spiny, pointy leaves on them that like have a little bit of poison in them that hurt when you bang into them, right? And I had a couple of them that I had to dig up from my ranch, and I wanted to
mm,
re-landscape. And so I started digging. And you start digging around a tree, and you have to shovel all the way around the tree, right? So I like to
mhm,
think about that as like one trigger process, another trigger process, right? Maybe this issue comes
mm,
up in a different way. And so now I'm shoveling over here. Maybe it comes up in a different way, but it's similar to that same pattern that I'm trying to dig out. And you start digging, and then you get down and you think, okay, I thought I got it now. I'm under it. And I try to shake the tree, but it's still rooted in so hard. And then I accidentally lean in and get poked in the face. That's what it's like trying to trying to dig up trauma. The ego will try to protect that pain.
mm,
It will poke you in the face. It will bring in experiences that are like, are you sure you want to deal with this? Are you
mhm,
sure you want to go this route? Because it would be
mhm.
easier to, smoke a ton of weed and just lay on the sofa, right? Are you sure?
Yeah,
I could eat. You could eat a lot. You could, there's all kinds of ways
any, any
anesthetize the
external.
pain, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So you keep digging, and each shovel is a trigger process. This is why I teach you want to start doing this on a regular basis so that it becomes part
Yeah,
of your
it's a
life, like
practice.
brushing your teeth. You just
Mhm.
you just process triggers. You get better at it, better at it. And then I get down in the book. I tell the story in the book, but I get down, you have to go back further now because I didn't get deep enough. So
The
back
roots.
further so you can get deeper. And eventually, after 100 shovels and a lot of shaking, you get it and you're like, yes, I got it. And then all of a sudden there's the tap root. And it's like, now I have
Taproot.
to get under and I have to slice this tap root. And then once you get it, the tree's out. And you no longer have to deal with that again. Like that pattern is gone.
Mm.
So some patterns are a couple shovelfuls. Other patterns are an entire yucca tree, right? It just depends on what's coming up in the moment, like what's causing you pain. That's always the indicator.
What's the You said you have, like, this secret sauce formula, so it's, like, 5 minutes, like, what is that? Are you allowed to elaborate on that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I practice these trigger processing modalities that are in the book, right?
Okay.
And one of my go tos is EMDR. And
Mm.
the woman who created EMDR actually created it while on a walk. And what EMDR does, let me explain that first. Eye movement desensitization reprocessing is what it stands for. And originally, they would use for trauma, usually for veterans, for PTSD victims, you conjure up the experience. You sort of see it in your mind's eye. And on a scale from 1 to 10, how disturbing does it feel? And what am I telling myself about this experience, right? I'm screwed. Like, you see this
Mm.
experience that's happening today, and it's like the boss wants to talk to me, and I'm so nervous. I'm screwed. I'm going to lose my job, right? So there's your handle. On a scale from 0 to 10, how disturbing is it? Oh God, this is an 8, 9, 10. I'm freaking, right? Okay, so there's your starting point. What would I like to think about this experience? I'd like to think I'm safe. I'm secure.
Mhm.
My job is secure. Even if I get fired, I'm going to be fine because I'm talented and I'm skilled and right. And that's what I like to think. On a scale from 0 to 10,
Optimistic.
how real does that feel right now?
Yeah.
While I'm triggered,
Yeah.
0. Like, if I could
Mm.
go below 0, it'd be there. But some people come in around 4 or 5, whatever. Okay, so there's your starting point, and now you go through. Originally, it was eye movement. So as your eyes follow the finger, they go back and forth across your field of vision. The movement balances your brain hemispheres. So now,
Really?
stream of consciousness, you're starting with this scary event, and you're going back, and it will show you patterns.
Mm.
It will show you other experiences that you've experienced that are similar to this. It will start drawing you back. And it might feel like stream of consciousness, like none of this is making sense at all. But eventually, if this is a
Yeah.
form of trigger processing that works for you, it will take you to a
Mm.
experience. And a lot of people will grieve, just cry
Mm.
for 30 seconds. Just or have some revelation. Aha, I see what this is attached to now. I'm free. And it's remarkable. That process in the beginning takes 20 to 30 minutes, sometimes maybe 15. And I did it with audio tracks at first because this made me dizzy, and I'm a
Yeah.
musician. So boop, 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 boop
Ah.
with headphones while I'm going through the image. And now I do it on a walk when I'm on a walk with my feet. Boom, 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 boom. Just go through the
Mm.
process. This is something that I've done every day for over 20 years, is
Wow.
the EMDR process. So I'm super fast at it now, right? Every day for 20 years, over 20 years. And some days I'd wake up triggered, really, really triggered.
Mhm.
And other days I'd just wake up like just normal stress. Like, how am I going to get everything done today that I need to do?
Right, yeah.
Right. So that's more addressing what I call limiting beliefs, right? Just, okay, I might not be triggered about this day, but I'm definitely thinking I can't do it.
Doubt.
I'm screwed. Can't
Yeah.
do this.
I think doubt is just
Yeah,
I think it's just a part of the, human experience. Like, I feel like even the most successful, like, people or athletes or, um, hardcore David Goggins style people, I think even they have this doubt come up, uh, and it's up to us to, nip it in the bud or not.
that's right. Are you going to live in it, swim in it, or are you going to find?
Chop that
Are you
thing
going to
off.
chop that off? Right. And some when you get to a point where you're not like triggered about something, you can just change your attention. You can literally
Mhm.
go, I'm not going to focus on that doubt. I'm going to focus on this positivity. Show me abundance. God, show me abundance in the world. Like, whatever, right? And you can see it and you can change your mind. But if you find yourself looping back to,
Mm.
oh God,
How am I gonna do
I'm going to do
this?
this,
Like, yeah.
you're triggered. It's not this huge end of the world. You're just triggered. And that's okay. And safe in your own skin shows you how to get untriggered and get on with your life. Right. And that's how, and that goes back to like that when we were saying, like, just let it go. It's like, but how? I'm
Yeah.
trying. I'm doing what I'm praying for the guy who I resent. It's not going away. Like I'm in pain. I'm suffering.
Yeah, I actually it's funny, I started making this podcast series, like, solo series of me, going through, the Tao Te Ching. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Hmm.
Um, one of the most, like, ancient Chinese. I always explain to people it's like, the Chinese Bible, like Taoism, it's like the Chinese Bible kind of. Um, but in the very first verse, it talks about the paradoxes and the dualities of life and living in unity. And the first thing that came to my mind when I read that was, instead of uh, trying to let go of trying.
Boom.
So it's like, yeah, let go of trying,
Let
and
go of trying.
then your answers will come to you.
Mic drop.
Yeah,
Instead of trying to let go of trying.
let go of
Boom.
trying, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And then how do you let go of trying? Sometimes you can just let go. And if you can't, you're triggered.
Mhm.
Process your trigger.
It's like a mind, exercise.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. I like to think about it when people are triggered, they're living in an echo of what's really happening.
Mm.
You know, there was a moment when they were really in the moment, and then
Mhm.
boom, now they're back in this echo of they're not really present anymore. They're bouncing around in an echo. So everything that
Yeah.
happens emotionally, you notice when somebody's triggered, they're like over emotional. It's like it's like watching a bad soap opera. This is one of the ways that I was able to kind of notice when I was triggered, because at first, when you're trying to clock when am I triggered, when am I not, you don't really know. It's just this is normally
Yeah,
hey,
you're
but I just
unaware.
remember
Yeah.
signs of being triggered. Like escalated heart rate.
Not
Am I
breathing,
swearing more than I normally
holding your
do?
breath.
Not breathing? Am I stuck in a negative loop? Am I rehearsing what I'm going to say to this person over and over, right? These are all signs that you're triggered. And
Mm.
when a person is triggered, they're temporarily insane. They're not
Mm.
present. They're not here. They're temporarily insane on the drama triangle. And so, yeah. So if I can't let go, if you can't let go of something, that's what you are. You're just triggered. So how do you get untriggered? Because at that point, you can't uh, stop trying to let go and let go of trying. You just can't. You can't do it. You can't let go of
Yeah,
trying.
yeah.
You're just stuck.
'Cause you're not even aware. I think awareness is one of the, like, I always tell people all the time, awareness is one of the first steps for growth,
Yes.
because if you're not aware, how can you grow? And it even goes back to, like, being in denial, like, why are you denying this? Like, you may be aware of it, but then are you aware that you're denying it? And then with denial, it's like you have to accept that you're denying this and then step back from it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's just multiple layers. There's just layers. Like people like to think of
Like an onion,
enlightenment
like
of
Shrek.
yeah, like Shrek. People like to think of it or an onion, right? An onion. You're just peeling back layers of the onion. We use that a lot in 12 step. Peeling back
Oh,
the
really?
onion. We like enlightenment is not this destination. It's not a
Mm,
place that you arrive and then suddenly you are enlightened and you see all. The universe is expanding. We know this. Enlightenment is a moving target. You might be aware
mm.
of this and completely in denial about this, or just ignorant about this. How can we know everything? We can't. I mean, we can. It's
Oh,
possible.
yeah.
We could know
Well,
everything.
tell that to, the hardcore atheist religion.
Well, we're human beings, right?
They know everything.
I yeah, exactly. I think scientists have proved, I don't know I'm not a statistician, so I don't know the exact percentage, but something like 98% of the universe is dark matter that we don't understand.
Yeah, I seen that too.
Yeah. So how is it possible that we know everything, right?
Yeah. Well, and then even then, it's like I have the rebuttal I say to a lot of atheists is, first off, it's arrogant to think you know everything. Secondly, the rational and logical mind need proof, but our proof is limited by the capabilities of our mind. So we don't. Yeah, we need for the rational and logical, like hardcore atheist people that just believe you turn to dirt when you die. The human mind is only capable of recognizing so much. So we don't even know what's beyond our limits of this 3 pound freaking fat piece of fat thing in our head.
There's so much we don't know. And so it's okay not to be aware of something.
Right.
It's okay to suddenly be aware of it. It
Hmm.
doesn't mean that you were an idiot because you didn't know it. You just know it now.
Yeah.
You know it now, so use it and
Yeah.
keep looking, keep looking, keep looking, keep searching for more and raising your level of awareness. And I think that, when you ask what I'm passionate about, the beginning of the
Mhm.
conversation, I'm passionate about helping people develop a level of awareness to where the impact that they have on their own life, the people in their family, is a
Mhm.
is a positive one, is one that's
It's a ripple
growing
effect.
in love and compassion and kindness.
Mhm.
And then the impact that they have in what they do in the world is the same. It's positive influence.
Mhm.
And yeah, and so I'm just giving people the tools to go out and do what they were born to do.
James, what does the, future what does the future look like for James?
Oh, I'm envisioning that on a daily basis, and I'm limited by my own imagination.
Right.
Um, but I definitely have a goal of helping 100 million people recover
Whoa,
from trauma.
I
Yeah,
love that
100
goal.
million people recover from trauma and start living a fulfilling life of happiness by understanding the gift of triggers. It's not a curse, it's not a bad thing, it's a gift
Mm,
because it's showing you where your pain is, right? Neutralizing trauma, getting off the drama triangle, having the life of your dreams. That's how it works.
love that, man. Well, you ready, for my conclusion?
Yeah,
Let's
bring
do
it.
it. So, anyone who's listening, I play this game called How Deep Will You Go? 3 random questions, 3 they can kinda be deep sometimes, sometimes they're kinda not that deep. First level, first question, what would you honestly rate yourself as a person from 1 to 10 and why?
10, man. I'm a 10. No, I have flaws. I don't know. I don't yeah. How would I rate myself? I rate myself a 10.
Yeah, how would you and why?
Not everybody else would rate me as a 10, but from where I came from with the tools that I was given and what I've managed to find and create in the world, I admire myself and I'm the kind of person that I want to be.
Mm,
So, yeah, I'm thinking about who will I be in 10 years and that guy is my hero.
mm. What you just said reminded me of a, what's his name?
Mhm.
Maslow quote. He said, "Somebody who reaches a point of" he's the one that created the Maslow's hierarchy thing.
Mhm.
He said, "When somebody reaches a point of the top, of the pyramid, what he called self-actualized, is you get to this point where you must be what you can be. And it sounds like what you just said is like, this is who I want to be, and you're reaching that.
Mm. Yeah, I
So
feel
yeah.
really lucky. I'm very, very grateful to have got, made it to this point, and I've got a shot at really doing that, really helping 100 million people. That would be amazing. Yeah.
I believe you, man. Next question. When is the last time you said I love you and you really, really meant it?
Oh, this morning. This
Yeah.
morning to Gabriella. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Same here. I say it every day when I drop my kids off at
Mm.
school.
Heck yeah, man. There's no love
Yeah.
like that. Love.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I always tell people, man, it's like, because it's kind of sad because for me personally, it feels sad because whenever people would talk about unconditional love, I never really understood it until I
Mm.
had until I had kids. So it's like when I had kids, it's like something clicked where it's like,
Mhm.
this is it.
Yeah, you just know you would do anything for them. Like,
Yeah.
you would give your life for them. No,
Yeah.
without question. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's that kind of love. It's different. It's different. There are a lot of different kinds of love, and that's a beautiful one, man. That's my favorite one.
Do you have kids?
I do. I have a son. He's 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, what are the toughest demons you're currently fighting?
Hmm. I think self-doubt. Self-doubt is probably the biggest demon I'm fighting at the moment. And it's because I think it hinders my creativity about how to
Mhm.
envision where we're going, you know? I mean, some people believe I'm one of them that everything that humans have created started with a thought,
Mhm.
started with an idea,
Mhm.
and then was manifested into something
The
that really
physical, yeah.
exists, right? And I think, yeah, I'm limited by my own level of creativity, or even though I see what some people like Tony Robbins, for example. Like, Tony Robbins is amazing what he's done. Like, he's helped so many
A
people.
goat.
Yeah, and he's one of my mentors,
Yeah.
and he was. We didn't talk about this much, but well, I don't even know if we want to get into it. It's
We can get
pretty.
into it.
It is going to be a long conversation if we do, but when I mentioned that, like, 10 years into recovery, I was like, why did I have so much drama in my life?
Mhm.
What actually manifested out of that pain was me founding a 12-step program called Violence Anonymous. And that's been going for 20 years now. There's people all over the planet who are recovering, who work the 12 steps. And I wrote the 12-step book for Violence Anonymous,
Mm.
redefined violence, which the world will catch on to, and it will become mainstream. It's inevitable. These things that we were talking about are, it's in pandemic, violence
Mm.
is we're in a pandemic of violence on planet Earth. There's no doubt about it. So
Yeah.
it's inevitable that people will continue to learn about Violence Anonymous, to attend it, to heal, to change. Like, when you think about AA, it's celebrating its 90-year anniversary this year.
Mm.
And, and it's very mainstream. It's in film. It's not,
Everywhere,
in
yeah.
the beginning, when you were an alcoholic, you were in an insane asylum in the
Really.
1930s. They didn't know what to do with you, and they thought it was all self-will. They didn't identify it as addiction, and it was Alcoholics Anonymous that changed the way we look at addiction in the world.
Yeah.
And that's reverberated into everything. And so all these other 12-step programs that follow, Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob and the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, are changing the world in their own way. And Violence Anonymous is no exception to that. It's going to transform millions of lives over hundreds of years.
100 million.
Yeah, that'd be cool to be part of the 100 million.
More
Yeah,
more than that.
for sure, for sure. Um, and so when I founded that 12-step program, I had a lot of guidance from people who I respected in other 12-step programs, people who had helped me grow and helped me through the steps, but they didn't have experience with violence. And
Mm,
so I wasn't able to find a sponsor to help me work the steps of Violence Anonymous or create. I mean, the steps are the steps. They're adopted from Alcoholics Anonymous with permission, and they're fundamental and they're amazing and they work.
mhm,
But all the approach to working the steps toward violence is different.
mm.
And being able to come up with that and write it, Tony Robbins was my sponsor. He didn't know it. I've never told him this. I've never even met him in person. But I was listening to what he was talking about, just how to take our power back.
Like an advocate for it, yeah.
Yeah. And I was listening to what he was teaching in, Date with Destiny and Unlimited
Have you
Power,
seen
whatever
his,
it's called.
Netflix? I
What's
always
that?
wanted to go to one of those. Have you
Netflix?
seen his, the Netflix one?
Yeah. I mean, since this time, I've been to all his things. His is
Yeah,
number
I wanna
one.
go to one so
Dude,
bad.
oh, it's pretty rah, but it's incredible. It's incredible. And but anyway, yeah, like so back to my demon, right? Is
Mhm.
these limiting beliefs, this self-doubt, like to think, oh, well, I do this, but I could never do it.
Oh, that's part of, what you just described is also part of, imposter syndrome.
Can you elaborate on that?
It's exactly that, what you just said,
Like I think I'm an imposter because I could never do it as good as somebody else.
and you feel like you don't deserve that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it, yeah. That's it.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of that. Like, oh, or there's a little bit of like, let's be reasonable. Like, do I really want to do it at the
Mm,
level that he's done it? I don't know.
mm.
There's a certain demand in that. Do I want to work that hard? I don't know. You
You
know,
gotta be so
there's that
when
bar.
I think of things like that, you gotta have a level of obsession. That's
Yeah.
something that, that pushes me, that drives me, is, like, what level of obsession, like, healthy obsession, am I into this? You know, it's like, am I really, like, I can't stop thinking about this
Yeah.
level of obsession? I think that's a good when you ask yourself that question, it's like, I go to sleep thinking about this, I wake up thinking about this, like, it's like, I
Right.
can't get this damn thing out of my head.
Yeah.
That's a good indicator where it's like, "Okay, yeah, like, this is my own permission to myself that I can do this."
Right. And then for me, that next level is like, okay, how far how far can
Mm,
I go
like
with
a
this? What
timeline.
is my vision of how far I can go with this?
Yeah.
And I do limit myself to think like, oh, well, they did it to this level, but I could,
Uh, that's that
you know what I mean?
comparison is the thief of joy right there.
Yeah. And that's what I mean by like, I
Yeah,
limit my own creativity, right? Because
yeah,
there are examples of the level of reach and wealth that I want to create for myself and people in my organization, the
mhm.
well-being that I want to create for the people who come to me for help or who read the book or who go through one of my courses or programs. Um, and those things are limited by self-doubt. Yeah, that's my
Nah,
demon.
you can do it, man.
Thanks, dude.
Something that, for me, that helps with doubt is not is practicing, detachment from the outcome. So it's like we want these out like, goals are nice to help guide us, but it shouldn't be our focus. Our focus should be, "Okay, what if this is the goal, what do I just need to do every day to reach that?" And then, obviously, you can create systems around it, whatever makes it easier, and focus on that instead of the end goal. Don't make the goal the focus. Make the focus the work that you wanna do that will eventually, uh, accomplish that goal.
Yeah. Yeah. It's constantly expanding, just like
Yeah,
enlightenment in the universe.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, James, I ask every guest that comes on my podcast for the first time the same last questions. My first question is, what is your biggest regret? Or if you don't have one, what is something your future self would regret?
I think my future self would regret not taking advantage of the opportunity that I have right now. And what I mean by that is, well, what we've been talking about, like
Yeah.
the ability to help 100 million people. Um, I'm in a very specific stage of my life where I'm absolutely in my prime. Like I have
Yeah.
lived.
How old are you?
I'm 57.
Okay, I want you people to hear that, like, from the rooftops because, people think they get into this mindset, the too late mindset.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, man, look at, what's the popular story? Kentucky Fried Chicken, he didn't start until he was, like, 65 or something.
Yeah, it's I have the benefit of being a musician
Mm,
and understanding timing and tempo.
mm,
And so over the years of recovering, I've settled into the understanding that I have perfect timing.
mm,
I know when to come out, I know when to sit out, I know when to come in. And I know that the things that are coming to me, even though I often feel like it's taking too long for them to happen, it's
mhm.
perfect timing. And I know when there's something I want to work on and I'm like, I'm not working on it. Why I'm not doing the work?
Yeah.
It's due. So I have perfect timing. I'm I'm thinking about it right now. I'll do the
Mhm.
work in the blast. I'll get it done.
It's there, yeah.
I have perfect timing. And so um I do that's a certainty for me. It's a certainty for me. I've just learned it from experience. And being at this stage of life where I have had a lot of life experience, and now I'm at a place where I really have turned the corner. Like I'm not operating out of any old pain.
Mm.
I trigger just like anybody else. Um, that doesn't own me. Like I'm out of it,
Yeah, yeah.
out of it fast. It doesn't,
You're
I don't
not
spend a
blinded
day
by
in it,
it.
I don't spend an hour in it. I spend minutes in it and I'm out and I'm back on track. And so what I mean by opportunity is like it's taken me a lot of years and experience to get to this place where I really not only do I have it to give, I know how to explain it, I know how to deliver it to people in a really simple way,
Mhm.
and I'm in peak physical condition. And so I've like got the energy,
Yeah, yeah.
got a 20 to 25-year runway to actually be really doing this work and
So
doing it at the highest level.
nah, you're gonna be doing this till you're, like, 80, man,
I
90.
think so. But
Don't
I'll
give
probably
yourself
spend
20
my
years. Give
80s
yourself, like,
doing
30,
I'll probably
40.
slow down in my 80s, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so I do feel like there's a huge opportunity right now and I'm passionate about it. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
Like you said, I
I
wake
feel
up
like that
ready to do it.
you have to have some level of that's why, like that's, like, part of my mission of my podcast is, to help people discover, uh, and live a life that's filled with purpose, passion, and peace, and it's like part of that is anything you do that you feel is worthwhile, you have to be somewhat passionate about it, you know?
Yep. Spot on.
So,
100%.
yeah, man, you'll get there, and I'll be watching from the sidelines. I'll be cheering you on, bro.
All right. Well, I'll come back on when you're not on the sidelines.
Right. Yeah, for real.
You're in it. You're in it. You're doing the podcast. You're in it, man. You're in it. You're spreading the goodwill, the good love, all the good vibes. Thank you, Thomas. This has been a real enjoyable experience coming on your podcast. I really appreciate it. Thanks for bringing me on. I've had a blast talking to you.
Same, man, same. Uh, I have 4 more questions for you.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. I have 4 more. Next question is, who or what has made the biggest impact in your life?
12 steps have had the biggest impact on my life.
Do you have any, like, advice for somebody who doesn't believe in the 12 steps?
Yeah. Find something that works for you.
Mm,
Yeah. Not everything works for everybody. It's not
yeah,
supposed to be that way. Um,
yeah.
Great example. I had this knee injury in my late 20s, and I tried so many different things: acupuncture, acupressure, Tui Na, Indian medicine, surgery. None of it worked. I finally found the Alexander technique, and
Mm,
it worked for me. And then I wanted to tell everybody about the Alexander technique. Like, oh my God, you got to try this. It's going to change everything. But it
yeah,
doesn't work it's not everybody has their own path, right?
yeah,
Just
yeah,
because, you know, just because you have something wrong with your elbow, it doesn't mean what I did is gonna fix it for you. You got to find your own thing. That's why
yeah,
if EMDR is a trigger processing modality that works for you, then use it. If it's not, find another one, because you've got to find a way off the drama triangle. And that's why I have a list of 8 to 10 modalities here in the book that we practice in the courses. There's even a trigger processing package where you just get the trigger processing videos. And if you're good at it, you can just go through it DIY and start to learn it yourself and do it.
yeah. That just it reminded me. I have this like saying about healing. It's like there's not a one size fits all for healing. Um, so yeah, 100%. Try everything maybe, and then stick with what works for you. All right. Next question is, what is the one lesson in your life that you had to learn the hardest way?
Jeez, been so many. Um, I mean, definitely coming to terms with being honest with myself.
Mm,
Right. I think again, that took a long time. Like, there are degrees. You just constantly peeling back the onion of being more and more honest with oneself. Right. Like in my
mm,
20s, when I got sober, the most honest that I could be with myself was, oh, I'm using drugs and alcohol to numb this pain, and I need to get help. And then people told me, well, you got to stop lying. You got to stop lying to yourself.
mm.
You got to stop lying to people. You got to be honest. You got to tell your boss, if you're going to miss work, you got to tell them why. Give them a good reason, not some made up thing. Oh, I'm sick today when I'm not sick today, right? You have to live a life of
Yeah,
being honest. And
yeah,
so that I think that's one of the reasons why I say I'm a 10, right? When you rate yourself, because I don't lie. I don't I don't make stuff up.
Radical honesty,
I
yeah.
am not afraid of the truth, because the truth sounds so cliche, but the truth is what set me free, right? The truth,
Mm,
being honest with myself, is what makes me more and more empowered, because it allows me to find solutions. If I was honest with myself about my financial situation, I had to stop using credit cards, stop going into debt, stop spending money I didn't have, right? Now I've got, my whole financial prosperity is based on that fundamental principle of, like, be honest with yourself about what you have and where you want to go. And then that helps you figure out what you got to do, right? But if I stayed in denial and just kept using the credit cards and I don't want to look at it, right? So there's these
yeah,
levels of honesty. So there is just lesson after lesson after lesson about
yeah,
being honest. And then the things that I've learned in the last 2 decades, and things that are in the book, Safe in Your Own Skin, are around how do I be really vulnerably honest, so that there's nothing you can argue with. And I'm not trying to present information to change you. I'm just, this is who I am.
yeah.
Good enough for me. Can you deal with this? Right?
Yeah, the first thing I think of is, like, when you live in honesty, you reveal everything, a part of yourself, and I think of people who live their whole lives with I'm sure you've probably heard of it before, like, people saying, "I have stories I'm gonna take to the grave."
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like part of that feels dishonest, you know? It's like, why are you have this story, like, locked away in your freaking psyche, and you're choosing to take it to the grave. But I feel like part of that living in radical honesty and truth is setting that free, like, dig that shit out. Dig that damn dig it out and throw it into the ocean, you know?
Reveal it. Yeah, reveal it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're as sick as our secrets. We're as sick
Mm.
as our secrets. Yeah. Yeah. So
That hurts to say.
that said, though,
Yeah.
there are places that are safe, and
Right,
there are
right.
places that are unsafe to unpack your secret.
Yeah.
And I would urge all of your listeners to be discerning about that, right? Because oftentimes
Mhm.
we're trying to get love from somebody who is incapable of giving it in that moment. And we
Mhm.
say things to make ourselves vulnerable that are then used against us. That's not what
Mhm.
I'm talking about.
Yeah. I've had that, yep.
You have to be savvy to protect your inner child, or
Mhm.
the inner teenager, or your inner self that
Mhm.
is being willing to be vulnerable. You have to be savvy enough to choose people who are safe.
Yeah.
That's a process. You'll make some mistakes. You'll choose some people who aren't safe. That's part of learning. But
Mhm.
ultimately, you want to keep working toward those.
I think, yeah, I think that's one of the key factors of, what's good and beneficial of therapy is getting an unbiased perspective on somebody that it's their whole job to not, like, judge you and and make you feel a certain way. So that's one good point of it, and
They're good at their job, and they'll help you along that.
yeah. Next question, what would you do in life if you had all the time and money you ever needed?
I would live the life that I'm living now. I would live the life that I'm living now, which is a balance of real self-care, exercise, health. We just took a walk this morning in our beautiful green belt here around the pond, doing this work, safe in your own skin work, school for emotional well-being work, which I'm doing here with you. Combination of that, we've got some family activities today. So I'm getting a balance of all the things that I love in life. And not every day, not every day is perfectly balanced. But if you look at my year, I'm a bit obsessive like this. Part of my money recovery is keeping my numbers, right? So I keep my financial numbers, but
Oh, yeah.
I keep my time numbers. And for 7 years, I kept a spreadsheet of where I spent my time. And I
Oh, wow.
tuned my life to where I feel it now. I spend pretty much 33% of my time sleeping,
Yeah.
33% of my time doing work that I love, and 33% of my time traveling, family activities, fun, adventures, living the life. So I really do have a balanced life. I'm fortunate in that way. I made my career, I shaped my career around my family commitments. That I learned how to generate wealth and money, but keeping my family as the most important priority.
Right, yeah.
Son is off school. He's out of school now, but when he was in school, if he was out on vacation, so was I.
Yeah.
Work life, so that I was always available for him if he needed.
Present, yeah.
Yeah. And so and my girlfriend Gabriella did the same thing with her life. And so we both own
That's perfect.
a partner in emotional well-being. We both have other companies. And
That's cool.
so, yeah, we have really balanced lives. So I'd be doing this, and I don't know, just on a maybe in ways that are impacting more and more people.
Yeah. It's just expansion. It's the exact same thing that I feel as well, just expanding your vision and what you can do. Yeah, I always encourage people to, if you're like feel like you don't have time for anything, do the time audit test where it's like just one day, set a 15-minute timer all day, every 15 minutes, set it, and then every 15 minutes reflect on what was I just doing for these past 15 minutes. And then like take note of it and you're like, damn, what the hell did I do all day?
That's cool. I'm going to try that. There is another method. It's a
Yeah.
Japanese work method that I've used.
Mm.
The name will come to me, but you set a timer around. You might work for a half an hour, and then you get up and you walk around for 5 minutes, and then you get back to work for a half an hour.
Oh, I think that's the
And it's a way of
Pomodoro.
really maintaining focus.
Yeah, I think that's the Pomodoro productivity hack. Yeah. Well, James, my last question is there anything you'd like to share with whoever's listening that you feel like will touch the depths of their core?
Sure. If you've made it this far in this podcast, first I want to thank you for listening to Thomas and I talk. That shows incredible commitment, and I appreciate you sticking with us. And I would just say, regardless of what you're going through, there is an easy and calm and enjoyable and happy way that you can go through it. And so if you're not experiencing that, maybe come look us up at schoolforoemotionalwellbeing.com or grab a copy of Safe in Your Own Skin and let that be a doorway. It doesn't have to be your ultimate solution. You don't have to be a person who comes and takes every one of my courses. Maybe you will be, maybe you won't be. That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that you're doing what you need to do to create a happier, healthier life for yourself. And it's not always easy, but it's always worth it.
James, thank you.
You bet. Thomas, thank you.